Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to take a look at Samsung Galaxy A05s. This is a new model. I just got this one. I bought it locally for around 200 euros. This is expensive for an entry-level phone, but this phone just got out and I have to pay the price to get it early. Let's take a look inside of the box. Here we have the usual paperwork, a Type-C to Type-C charging cable, quick start guide, and the warranty card. Also inside of the box we have a SIM ejection tool and the phone itself. Now I have previously unboxed this phone as I was doing some videos. Here on the back we see that the phone has a triple camera setup and it's very similar to old entry-level phones from Samsung. This is the Samsung Galaxy A14. And as you can see, these phones are very similar. The camera placement is the same. The fingerprint placement is the same also. The microphone here at the top. Also same here at the bottom. We have the speaker, Type-C charging port, microphone, and the headphone jack. And the SIM tray here on the left side. We can use the same protective case from the A14 to the A05s. But if we go on a similar device, this is the Samsung Galaxy A23. We go on settings, display, we see motion smoothness, and here we see that we have 90 Hz of refresh rate. Here on the A05s, we don't see it. These phones are practically the same because they come in the same configuration. A23 has more configurations available because it has 6 GB of RAM, 8 GB of RAM, and this one has only one configuration with 4 GB of RAM and 128 GB of storage. Also, the other thing that I was concerned about is the fact that in the spec sheet it says that the phone has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 680 4G 6 nanometers. But if we go here, we will see that we will have the same processor on both phones, Qualcomm Snapdragon 665 11 nanometers. At this time, I'm not sure if it's the app fault or the GSM Arena got the spec sheet wrong. But here it says that it has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 665. Also a quick comparison with the A23. We have a camera more here. And the main difference from A05s to A23 is the fact that the A23 cannot record video with Full HD 60 frames per second, and the A05s can. You can clearly see that here. A05s doesn't have a wide-angle camera, despite the fact that it has a triple camera setup here on the back. It only can do 1x, 2x, up to 10x, while the similar devices like the A14, A23, etc. do have a wide-angle camera, and they can go from the wide-angle camera to 10x. But for me, this is good. I rather have a 60 frame per second camera than a 1080p 30 frames per second wide-angle camera like is on the A23, A14 or similar devices. 1080p 60 frame per second camera, it's much more smoother than the 30 frames that we are used to entry-level phones like A14, etc. A03, A04, etc. While we're here on the camera, we see that we have panorama, night, macro, hyperlapse, slow motion, pro mode, food. These are the options on pro mode. And now let's take a look at the phone. Now, before buying this phone, I was looking over at GSM Arena, the spec sheet, and here it says that the phone has the configuration with 6 GB of RAM and it has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 680. It also says that the phone has the PLS LCD display with a refresh rate of 90 Hz. The selfie camera 1080p 30 frames per second. Now, this is my reply here on GSM Arena. Display is 60 Hz on the A05s. Now the app here for the hardware, it shows that the phone has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 665 instead of 680. And this one is 11 nanometers, not 6 nanometers like the spec sheet said. Also, it says here that the phone has 6 GB of RAM, which is not true because the phone has 4 GB of RAM, as I already told you. The camera is 1080p 60 frames per second, front and back. Now, if we open the camera app here, we see that we have Full HD 60 on the main camera, and when we go to selfie camera, we still have Full HD 60. This is one of the best things of this phone, the camera, and the fact that it can do 60 frames per second. Other than that, this phone has a radio app. Here in GSM Arena, it says that the phone doesn't have, or it's not specified, but the phone has a radio app. As long as the phone has a headphone jack, it will have a radio app. So yeah, that's about the specs. So now we have a phone that has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 665, 11 nanometers. It has 4 GB of RAM, 128 GB of storage. It has a main camera of 50 megapixels here on the back that can do 1080p 60 frames per second. It has a selfie camera of 13 megapixels that can also do Full HD 60 frames per second. And we have, I would say, a pretty snappy phone, but it's 60 Hz. But despite the fact that the phone has a 60 Hz display, still my impressions are very good, because I know for a fact that the price of this phone will drop. Now, I paid around 200 euros for this phone, which is equivalent of 220 US dollars, I believe. But I think that in about 2 or 3 months, the price of this phone will go down to 150 euros. And in that price point, this is a pretty decent choice to imagine that it will have 60 frames per second on the camera. Let's open Subway Surfers, because if the phone lags at the beginning of this game, that is my determination if the phone is bad or if the phone is good. And as you can see here, no lag. The phone can handle a small game like Subway Surfers very good. I don't know about PUBG, but if we play PUBG, I would recommend you guys play it on the low settings, or a big game like Call of Duty or something in that category. But if you play a small game like Subway Surfers, it will be good. The other test is on YouTube. Let's check the display, viewing angles, and the speaker of this phone. The maximum video resolution goes up to 1080p. This is the full screen. For an LCD display, the viewing angles are good as long as you keep the brightness level to maximum. Now let's open another video, test the speaker. We only have one bottom firing speaker. Now, it's not the loudest in the world, but it's clear. The phone will vibrate up to, let's say, up to here, to imagine that it has a small speaker. The last thing, the battery information. As you can see here, the battery capacity is 5000 milliamperes. The phone supports wired 25-watt charging. I believe it's understandable that the phone doesn't have wireless charging. That was the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you on the next one.